UFC 317 International Fight Week is falling apart. Dana White in a recent interview was pressed about Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall, and it seems like Dana White is finally starting to crack and has hinted at potentially moving on from Jones versus Aspinall. Conor McGregor has assaulted somebody else, this time in a club rather than a hotel room, and a few other things I want to break down in this video. So I'm going to combine them all together. Let's just jump right into it with UFC 317. Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira. I did a video about UFC 317 yesterday about how International Fight Week is supposed to be the biggest event of the year, and it was lackluster. Well, do you guys notice a fight missing now? You guys notice a fight missing? Ilia Topuria, Charles Oliveira, Alexandre Pantoja, Kai Kara France, Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano. This is a mid-card for International Fight Week. It's really a shitty card for International Fight Week. It's supposed to be the mecca of the UFC. It's supposed to be the Super Bowl of the UFC. It's supposed to be the biggest fight card of the year. It was already dog shit, to be quite honest. And we'll just scroll to the bottom here. Paulo Costa, Roman Khabibulov, bout rescheduled. If you watched my video from yesterday when I was talking about this card, I said, yeah, I'm not even sure this fight's actually going to happen. And now it's off the card. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't dying to see Paulo Costa versus Roman Khabibulov. I'm not like, oh my God, that's such a banger middleweight fight. But that's one less mildly interesting fight on an already lackluster UFC 317 International Fight Week card. They keep watering down the product. Now, this fight got moved to UFC 318, which we'll talk about briefly for a second. But how asleep at the wheel is Dana White? How checked out is Dana White? How watered down is the UFC? Because they already put on a lackluster International Fight Week card on paper. And to top it all off, they had Paulo Costa and Manel Kape, two guys known for pulling out and not showing up, as parts of a lackluster International Fight Week card. So now both those guys are gone off the card, which they disappear from every single card. I mean, I'm not going to go through every fight on the card again. You guys think this is International Fight Week worthy? You guys tell me. I mean, seriously, this is a complete and utter disgrace to International Fight Week. The other thing I want to talk about is it is now confirmed that Arman Tsarukyan is the backup for the main event. I have to applaud the UFC. Arman's been on Dana White's shit list from pulling out at UFC 311. This card can't handle a main event loss. It really cannot handle a main event loss. To be honest, imagine if the main event was off. International Fight Week's going to be Alexandre Pantoja versus Kai Kara France. Oh, God, no. So I'm actually low-key kind of hoping Charles Oliveira pulls out and we get Ilia Topuria versus Arman Tsarukyan. That is the vacant lightweight title fight that should have originally been made. So I'm kind of hoping that, but also I'm hoping that Arman gets the winner. If the fight does happen, Arman should get the winner. He is the rightful #1 contender. Him pulling out due to a back injury should not exclude him from fighting for the title when he quite literally has a win over Charles Oliveira. And since that Charles Oliveira win, Oliveira has gotten one win against bummy-ass cheating Mike. Dirty Mike. Sorry, I said cheating Mike. Well, same thing. One win over Dirty Michael Chandler. That's all Charles Oliveira has. So I'm kind of low-key. Oliveira sprains his ankle, or, I don't want him to get injured. Maybe he has a very small cut that can't get passed through the commission. I don't know, something. Visa issues. Arman Tsarukyan steps in. I mean, that would upgrade this card. Imagine Ilia Topuria, Arman Tsarukyan upgrading the card. But at the end of the day, they needed a backup for the main event, because what are we going to do? Throw Renato Moicano in there? So Mighty Mouse and Ariel could be like, yeah, Moicano's more dangerous than Arman. They don't know nothing about the sport. They're going to throw the dead body of Beneil Dariush in there against Topuria or Oliveira. Who would want to see either of those fights? Because that's the other option they would have. They did not have a backup in Arman. Someone falls out in the main event, you're getting Beneil Dariush or Renato Moicano stepping in. So I applaud the UFC for making Arman Tsarukyan the backup for the main event, because if this main event fell out and we don't have an adequate replacement, UFC 317 is dead on arrival. It would be an abomination of an International Fight Week card. Anyway, UFC 318. This is where Paulo Costa versus Roman Khabibulov got moved to. We don't know the exact reason why. Maybe it's because 318 is absolute garbage. It's an abomination. So I'm assuming they were like, you know what? Let's try to beef up UFC 318 a little bit. Let's put Paulo Costa, Roman Khabibulov on the card. I mean, it is what it is. We still got Marvin Vettori, Brendan Allen as the co-main event. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much this beefs up the card. I don't know if there was an injury. I don't know what's going on. I'd be shocked if it even happens at UFC 318. I'll be shocked if it happens there. So it is what it is. They've taken away from UFC 317, which is already lackluster. I don't think they're going to add another fight to 317. But 318, I guess, is one marginal point better than it previously was yesterday. I made a video about all the recent pay-per-views or all the pay-per-views over the summer. If you care to check out that video, check out my channel. I'll link it down in the description as well. Next thing I want to talk about, and this I didn't even mention in the beginning, we have a banger middleweight matchup in the making. It looks like Nasruddin Imavov versus Caio Borralho is going to happen. Imavov tweeted out, "No backup anymore. Conditions changed. You wanted to talk, son. I'm here. I'm going to break you." Shout out Stipe Miocic. If you know, you know. So it looks like this fight's happening. Now, initially, I was thinking they should put this on 319. Main event of 319 is Dricus du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev. This would be a banger co-main event. And if anything happened in the main event, you could call one of these guys up, Imavov most likely, to fight in the main event. He could still be the backup. But the fact that he's not saying he's the backup anymore leads me to believe this will be the main event of UFC Paris on September 6th. It makes sense. Imavov from Paris. He's going to main event in Paris. Banger main event. I think it's a banger fight night card main event. And also, this fight just makes sense. I know Imavov arguably already deserves a title shot, but Khamzat Chimaev versus Dricus du Plessis isn't happening till mid-August. Nasruddin fought in February. He's going to sit around for basically a year waiting for the winner of Dricus du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev. And that's if Dricus du Plessis even bothers to show up. You know, he has a history. He has a checkered history of pulling out. And then if he wins, you know he's going to take another 6 to 8 months off. You know, he won't even fight with a stub toe. So I'm happy Imavov's taking the fight against Caio Borralho. I think this is a banger matchup in the middleweight division. I favor Imavov. I do believe this will be the UFC Paris main event. And I think the winner is the bona fide #1 contender in the middleweight division. Next thing I want to talk about before we get to the Jon Jones, Dana White interview, Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor. Get your candy ass back in the octagon. I got a sweet tooth. See you at the top. I got one dude on my mind. Conor McGregor, I mean, is this not just what he does now at 40 years old? I mean, every time he's caught on camera, he's acting like a fool. This time he's assaulting someone in a club. Sometimes he's assaulting women in hotel rooms. What really aggravates me is that Conor McGregor has a very well-documented history of acting like this. Whether it's the drugs, whether it's the alcohol, whether it's the fact that he's not mentally all there, he has a track record of acting like this. And when he was found civilly liable of sexual assault, the majority of the MMA community was defending him. We have new video of him in a club recently at damn near 40 years old when he has a wife and like 6 kids at home. This is what he's out doing. Watch this. I'm going to mute the audio because I don't want to copyright on music. Watch this. Watch this very closely. This is Conor McGregor right here. Okay? That's Conor. Watch that left hand. Watch that left hand. Look. Ready? Talking to a guy. Boom, left hand. That's not good enough. 1 isn't good enough. Boom, 2. Knocks the guy to the ground. This is what Conor McGregor's up to nowadays. Michael Chandler's wishing that was him. Can you believe Michael Chandler recently did an interview where he was trying to manifest. Why did I say it that way? He's trying to manifest a Conor McGregor fight on him and his wife's anniversary. Michael Chandler, a.k.a. Dirty Mike, is pathetic. He is weak. He is an embarrassment. He's been groveling at the altar of Conor McGregor for 3 damn years. And this is what Conor's doing. Michael Chandler might as well just go to a club or a hotel room. But I guess you can't blank the willing. This is what Conor does. He's obviously a drug addict. He's obviously an alcoholic. And all he does is go out and party 24/7 and make horrible decisions. And people talking about, like, is he going to return to the UFC? I've been saying for years he's not going to return. I said, okay, there's a slight chance, but I very highly doubt it. This is what he's doing at 40 years old, damn near. I know he's like 37, 38. At damn near 40 years old, wife and like 6 kids at home. And this is what he'd rather do. Go out, get drunk, use drugs, rape women, and assault people at clubs. It's not an old man this time. And this is the guy that the MMA community defends. I mean, they defended him against that woman. They're like, how dare you? She's a liar. When Conor literally has the most well-documented past of acting like a complete fool. So we'll probably never see him in the octagon again. Maybe he'll use his sunset clause to get out of his UFC contract. Maybe he'll fight for like a massive payday in BKFC in like a year or so, maybe late 2026, maybe 2027. At some point, Conor will be broke and he will come back, but we'll see when that is. It might not be for another 2-3 years. But until then, he's just going to be assaulting people in clubs. And honestly, it wouldn't shock me if he ends up in jail soon. Because it sickens me, honestly, because he's rich, because he's powerful, because he's popular, he's able to avoid any consequences. And the MMA community still defends him. I know a lot of fans are finally turning on him, but like this is unacceptable behavior. And while we don't know exactly what went down, that guy didn't put his hands on Conor. And Conor's out there putting his hands on him. What a complete and utter disgrace, an embarrassment to his children, an embarrassment to his wife, and honestly, an embarrassment to the UFC. The UFC should come out and condemn this guy. Dana White should come out and say, yeah, we don't want to be in business with Conor anymore. He's a crackhead maniac. That's what they should be saying. But instead, we'll continue to talk about him in a potential UFC comeback. Anyway, Dana White, Jon Jones. Next thing I want to talk about. I've strung together for you a couple clips of Dana White recently talking about Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. And I want you to compare these very short clips I'm going to show you to the recent interview he did with Jim Rome, where Jim Rome actually kind of pressed Dana White a little bit about Jon Jones, Tom Aspinall. And now Dana has a totally different tone. So this was the Ian Machado, Gary, Carlos Prates post-fight. He was asked specifically about Jones Aspinall and how confident he was that it would happen in 2025. Listen to this.
This week was a funny one. Someone reported that the fight's done, it's got a date. Then the next day someone reported the fight's off. And then John's not taking it. Where do we stand with that fight?
Everything you hear is bullshit until we say it.
AKA, I want to be a dictator of the UFC. I want to control all information. Dana always shits on the media. And don't get me wrong, I love shitting on the media myself. Dana doesn't want objectivity. He doesn't want fair reporting. He wants obedience, okay? But that's besides the point. Let's continue.
So that fight is still the target for both men?
I've said it many times that's the fight that we want to make this year.
Okay.
By the way, evasive answering. Well, I've said that many times. Okay, well, is that still the truth or what? I've said it many times. Anyway, let's continue.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the year, you said you were super confident. It's definitely going to happen. Are you still super confident?
Still super confident.
Cool.
Still super confident. As he's shaking his head no. Did anybody else notice that? Like, what was going on? This was April 27th. Listen to him. Drinking out of his Power Slap cup.
You said you were super confident. It's definitely going to happen. Are you still super confident?
Still super confident.
Cool.
So he's still super confident. As he's shaking his head no. Then recently, when he did a live stream announcing UFC 317, this was Dana White occasionally asked about Aspinall Jones. Listen to this.
All right. Tom Aspinall, I didn't read it. I told you guys already, we'll get Aspinall versus Jones done.
I told you guys, we'll get Aspinall Jones done. Let's jump ahead a little bit more in the same stream. Same stream. One more clip I want to show you before we get to the interview.
Jon Jones versus the heavyweight fight will happen. Just relax. I'll announce that soon.
By the way, did he just forget Tom Aspinall's name even though he had said it like 2 minutes prior? Jon Jones, the heavyweight fight will happen. I'll announce it soon. Well, that's very, very interesting coming from the recent interview that he did with Jim Rome, where Jim Rome, it was really kind of a, what's the word? A layup interview where Jim Rome was like, man, tell me about UFC BJJ. Tell me about Power Slap. Tell me about the boxing match you're promoting. But he did slip in like a minute and a half where he directly asked him about Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. And Dana White finally starting to crack. Finally starting to change his tune a little bit. If you haven't seen it, I covered his recent post-fight at UFC 316 where he was getting a little weird about Jones Aspinall. Well, now it's changed even a little bit more, and I love, you know what I absolutely love? Dana White has glazed Jon Jones for the better part of like 2.5, 3 years, all because of his insecurities of Francis Ngannou leaving the organization. And now he's painted himself into a corner where if this Jones-Aspinall fight doesn't pan out, the person who should be most embarrassed is Dana White. So let's listen. Let's listen to the Jim Rome interview.
Hey, Dana, what I'm about to ask you, you're not going to say is the beauty of what we do, because I know you're sick of the question.
By the way, got to butter him up because we know we're going to ask him a question that he doesn't like. Oh, hey, you know that fight you've been promising for like 7 months now? You any closer to announcing it?
Does Jon Jones not want to fight, or does Jon Jones just not want to fight Tom Aspinall?
Does Jon Jones not want to fight, a.k.a. does he want to retire, or does he not want to fight Tom Aspinall? Dana's definitely going to answer the question, right? He's not going to go on a weird spiel about Jon Jones has never turned down a fight and this and that, right? Definitely going to answer the question, right?
Listen, Jon Jones has been an interesting human being to deal with since the day he got here.
Nobody fucking asked that, if he was interesting or not. Does he want to fight Tom Aspinall or not? Yes or no, Baldy? Jon Jones is an interesting character, man. He shoots guns, man. He's got German Shepherds.
But I will say this about him. You would never hear me out, talking about he's the GOAT and he's the this and he's the that if Jon Jones didn't want to fight people. Jon Jones.
So they put up some quotes of some recent tweets from Jon Jones. They're irrelevant. Let's continue.
Has never, ever said, I'm afraid to fight this guy, or I don't like this fight for me, or any of that stuff. One time, his coach at the time, back in the day, I don't know if he's still with them or whatever, I think it's the only fight we've ever canceled, had to cancel a show because of. But
by the way, I was the first person to bring this up when he was sucking Jon Jones. Jon Jones never turned down a fight. Well, you cried and whined on like an ESPN phone call because Jon Jones turned down a short notice replacement. And that's what Dana's talking about now. But Jim Rome realizes, oh, Dana, you didn't answer the question. Let me follow up.
But he wouldn't fight Chael Sonnen because his coach thought it was a bad idea to take that fight on late notice. But it had nothing to do with Jon Jones. Jon Jones has never turned down an opponent here or been afraid to fight anybody.
That wasn't the question. Does he want to fight or not? You go on his feel, well, his coach didn't want him to fight Chael Sonnen, and he's an interesting character. Does he want to fight or not? Like, it's a simple question. Yes or no? As far as you know, is he planning on fighting this year? Is he planning on fighting this year? But Dana can't give an answer. And look, by the way, look at that look, man. He's not happy about that. He doesn't want to be asked about Jones Aspinall because this is going to be the biggest humiliation of Dana White's life if Jones does not fight Aspinall. I'm here for it, boys.
So if, for instance, he doesn't fight this guy, who would you like to see him fight? Or are you going to wait until he fights this guy?
By the way, total casual. I mean, I already knew that, but is he going to fight this guy? Or are you going to wait until he fights this guy? Or like, what? And that's when you get the really interesting answer from Dana White.
I don't know. We'll see how this thing plays out over the next couple weeks. But yeah, if we can't get this fight done, we'll move on quickly.
First off, we'll move on quickly. I'm gonna let that slide for a second, but let's rewind this back real quick. Let's rewind this back. There's a little bit more to that.
Out over the next couple weeks. But yeah, if we can't get this fight done, we'll move on quickly.
So we'll figure this out over the next couple weeks. Jon Jones last fought in November of last year. It is now June, almost July. You've had damn near 8 months to figure it out. And you're like, oh, we got to figure it out over the next couple weeks. That is a little bit different from, yeah, I'm very confident this fight happens. I'm confident that's going to happen. I'm going to announce it soon. To all of a sudden, oh, we'll figure it out in the next couple weeks. But if not, we'll move on from it quickly. What? When he said quickly, that really pissed me off. I mean, just real quick. Jon Jones, last fight, November 16th, 2024. Tom Aspinall, last fight, July 27th, 2024. There's nothing quick about this. I wish Jim Rome would have followed up and said, well, Jon Jones last fought in November, Aspinall last fought in July of last year. How is moving on in potentially July? How is that quickly? The heavyweight division is being held up. And he does press him a little bit more, and Dana, you can tell Dana's pissed, and then Jim Rome moves on. Listen to this.
I was going to say, Dana, my last thought on that. How long are you going to wait? I mean, how long is it worth waiting for?
I said a couple weeks.
Couple weeks?
Yeah, we'll have answers in the next couple weeks.
All right.
We'll have answers in the next. Let me actually scoot this over a little bit for you. Let me scoot this over a little bit for you. It's a little bit cut off because of the way it's recorded. But you can tell Dana was pissed here when he followed up. Watch this.
I mean, how long is it worth waiting for?
I said a couple weeks.
Couple weeks?
Yeah, we'll have answers in the next couple weeks.
We'll have answers in the next couple weeks. Dude, we already waited a fucking year. Get it together. I mean, this goes to show really how far the UFC and Dana White has fallen off. We need a petition to remove Dana White as CEO and president of the UFC. We're going to figure it out in the next couple of weeks. How many weeks do you need? Again, it's been damn near 8 months since Jon Jones last fought. Figure it out. Yes or no, is it happening or not? We're going to move on quickly? There's nothing quick about this. Even if it does happen, we have fights booked all the way until the beginning of October. The earliest it could happen is a year from Jon Jones' last fight date. Now, the one thing they could do is if they are moving on from Jon Jones, they could book Tom Aspinall, Ciryl Gane, throw him on that Paris Fight Night card, co-main event, Nasruddin Imavov, Kyle Barajo. That'd be a banger card. Maybe that's what they're planning on doing. I don't really know, but it's just like, Dana, what are you doing? But this is the first, maybe second time you could look back at UFC 316 press conference where Dana was playing coy and say, well, Jones agreed to fight. But he was like being very vague, like he agreed, but did he say never mind, he's not fighting anymore? But this is the first time Dana goes from, oh, yeah, I'm so confident, I'm 100% confident the fight's going to happen. We're going to get Jon Jones, Tom Aspinall. And now he's saying, oh, well, we're going to figure it out in the next couple weeks and then we might move on. Then we might finally move on from this heavyweight purgatory, all because Dana White and the UFC couldn't give any concessions to Francis Ngannou. The only way the UFC can save this situation, I mean, if they book Jones Aspinall, okay, they're saved. But other than that, they need to find a way to get Francis Ngannou back. Imagine they announce Tom Aspinall, Francis Ngannou, undisputed heavyweight title. Everyone would turn and forget Jon Jones immediately. But other than that, Dana's going to be laughed at. You know how embarrassed Dana should be if we waited a year just for them to announce Tom Aspinall, Ciryl Gane? Over a year for Tom Aspinall to sit on the sidelines. Granted, he was sick earlier this year. But over a year waiting for him to fight Ciryl Gane, who got a robbery win over Alexander Volkov in his next fight. That will be a complete and utter humiliation and a stain on Dana White's legacy. But this is where we're at nowadays, boys. Oh, we're going to move on quickly. It's been almost a year already. You bum. 8 months, okay? Maybe not almost a year. It's been over half a year already. So, very interesting. I just thought, because all these things happened today, rather than make individual videos, I would combine them all together in one video. Subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you thought about this video. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and thank you so much for watching.